Donald Trump has arrived in a New York court as his long-awaited hush money trial begins. The former president is accused of falsifying his business records to disguise a payment made to the former adult film star Stormy Daniels. Mr. Trump is pleading not guilty and is speaking at a rally in Pennsylvania on Saturday. He remained defiant.
On Monday in New York City, I will be forced to sit fully gagged. I'm not allowed to talk. Can you believe it? They want to take away my constitutional right to talk. I have a crooked judge. This has never happened before, by the way. You do know that, right? Fully gagged before a highly conflicted and corrupt judge who suffers from TDS. Does anyone know what TDS is? Correct. Trump Derangement Syndrome.
There it is. Joining me now, American political commentator Michael Graham. I'm uncomfortable. Always good to see you, Michael. Fully gagged. Isn't
By the
that
way,
how he...
I've had my TDS shots.
I'm glad you have.
So I'm clear.
I'm glad you
I
have.
had mine, yes. The
Well,
second one
to
was
know.
the tough one. That's the hangover.
Well,
yeah.
the term fully gagged, isn't that how he got into this trouble in the first place?
If only she'd been full, So I don't even know what the rules are about British broadcasting. I'm very nervous about this. I'm a former talk show host in the States, so I'm used to saying insane things. But I will say this. I know a lot of people who really don't like Donald Trump and who think this case is not just embarrassingly bad, a bad law, but really harmful. Because what is Trump's superpower? He gets other people to reveal their supervillain. So when you try to attack him, he says, you're attacking me, the other guy's worse. And whether the other guy or gal is worse or just as bad, it lowers the standard for everybody. And the Alvin Bragg case here is very hard for lawyers who hate Trump to defend. First of all, he paid his lawyer, and then his lawyer paid off his supposed ex-girlfriend. That's not illegal. Then the city says, well, the way you did it, maybe it's a paperwork thing. You didn't disclose exactly what kind of business expense it was. Well, that's a misdemeanor with a 2-year statute of limitations. Well, they didn't even bring the case until after the 2 years. Yeah. So Alvin Bragg had to invent a felony that this was somehow secretly related to the presidential election, and it's somehow an FEC federal election violation. But the federal election people already looked at the case and said no. In fact, you remember that guy John Edwards back in the day? Back when Hillary Clinton was running for president.
Absolutely.
Remember the guy, the good-looking Southern guy who turned out had a wife dying of cancer and a girlfriend with a baby? He went to court on this, and the court said, you're guilty of stuff, but the giving the hush money is not an FEC violation. So everyone knows that legally this case is bogus. Everyone. But they don't care. One of the big liberal magazines on Monday morning, the headline was, we finally get to call Donald Trump a convicted felon, because they're assuming that a liberal New York jury overseen by a progressive New York prosecutor are just going to convict Donald Trump for being Donald Trump. And no matter what you think of Trump, that is terrible for America.
And it's interesting because along with yourself, Michael, we've spoken dozens of times over the last few years. And of course, it's coming up to a decade since Trump first floated the idea that he was going to make America great again. And in that time, I've lost count of how many curious, sometimes slightly distasteful, not very pleasant things have come out about Donald Trump. I'm not just talking about him talking about where he likes to grab women. I mean, that's bad enough. But, even if you look at his business interests from the past, there was a whole load of things that I thought one day he might end up in court for. This wasn't really one of them, because it might not be it's not the kind of thing you want to tell your wife you did. It's not the sort of thing you'd want to stand in a pulpit at Sunday school and tell the kids you did. But that doesn't make it illegal.
And that should be the standard. But once again, Trump's superpower is getting everyone else to reveal they don't have standards either. And that's why the media coverage has been intentionally misleading. Rarely does the New York Times, Washington Post, etc. mention just how lame the case is. They don't mention the underpinnings. And so, it is, I don't know what's going to happen. It is possible that the jury just, convicts him for being Trump and figures that some other jury later will figure it out. Basically kind of the reverse of the O.J. Simpson case. We know what we're doing isn't right, but somebody down the line will fix it. But it also is very possible that there could be jurors going, look, I hate Trump, but the law is the law, and this just isn't against the law. And then he gets off. they're going to make him look even stronger
Yeah.
because he went into the lion's den and came out with the lion's head under his arm.
And this is the crazy thing, because there's obviously, he says he's fully gagged. I mean, I don't know whether at any point he gets to speak at any point in this trial, but obviously he has a lawyer who's going to make all of these arguments to the jury, and the lawyer will no doubt reflect that very line, Michael, that, look, there's a lot of Trump critics think this is, if not crooked, just completely bonkers. This doesn't really make a lot of sense. How long does it go on for, though? Trump's not going to sit there day after day.
So today it's just jury selection, and that's going to be the tough part, is finding a jury that the judge can at least pretend when this goes to appeal he thought would be a fair jury. It's hard to find people without an opinion about Donald Trump. It's like trying to find someone who doesn't have an opinion about World War II, doesn't have an opinion about sex. I mean, everybody knows Trump. Everybody knows what Trump's about. So that's a tough thing. Oh, by the way, the reporting, and you know how Trump is. He'll say one thing at 5 a.m. and one thing at 7 a.m. But the latest report is he intends to testify at his trial. And if he actually does, then that's a sign, I think, that once they reach that point in the trial, that they are so confident that the case is not there, that they're so confident that it will be overturned on appeal, that he's willing to go up and then he will truly have a bully pulpit, the first former president ever to testify in his own criminal trial. Love him or hate him, it's history.
It is indeed. We are going to watch with interest and see how this one pans out. Popcorn is at the ready, of course, whichever way this one goes. Michael, it's always a pleasure. Thank you, sir. We will speak again, and I'm sure quite a lot between now and November as well. That's Michael Graham, US political commentator, managing editor at Inside Sources.